The galaxy had always seemed calm, a vast expanse of stars and planets moving silently through space. Humans had explored many worlds, learned about strange civilizations, and even built powerful starships. But no one ever imagined what would happen when curiosity and arrogance met the deadliest beings the galaxy had ever known. Captain Joran Vale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, a human warship designed for both exploration and defense. His crew moved quickly around him, adjusting controls and monitoring the deep space scanners. They were far from home, patrolling the edge of the Vega Expanse, a region where few dared to travel. The stars were quiet, almost peaceful, but that peace made Joran uneasy. "Captain, sensors are picking up a massive energy signature ahead," said Lieutenant Mara, her fingers flying across the console. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." Joran leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. He had seen a lot in his career, but something about this reading made his stomach twist. "How close is it?" he asked. "About 30,000 kilometers, approaching fast," Mara replied. "It's moving toward us, but there's no identifiable ship pattern." Joran straightened. "Prepare weapons just in case. I don't want to be caught off guard." The crew followed orders without hesitation. Every human on the bridge knew that even a small mistake in this part of space could cost their lives. The massive shape came into view. It was unlike any alien species they had encountered. Its body was enormous, almost the size of a small moon, and its surface shimmered with dark, metallic scales. Jagged spikes protruded from its frame, pulsating with energy. The crew held their breath as the thing drifted closer, its presence filling the sensors and minds of every human on board. Joran clenched his jaw. "Identify it," he barked. The AI system responded with a cold, mechanical tone. "No data available. No known classification matches detected readings." Mara swallowed hard. "Captain, I don't think this is just a ship. It's alive, and it's massive." Before anyone could react, the creature unleashed a wave of energy. The Resolute shook violently, alarms blaring throughout the ship. Panels sparked, lights flickered, and crew members stumbled as they tried to maintain control. "Shields up! Return fire!" Joran shouted. Human weapons fired, lasers cutting through the blackness of space. But they barely scratched the creature's armor. Each shot bounced harmlessly off, leaving glowing scorch marks that faded almost immediately. The creature responded by unleashing another blast, stronger than the first, tearing through the outer defenses of the Resolute. Joran's heart pounded. He realized this was not an ordinary battle. They were facing a predator that humanity had no chance of defeating with standard firepower. He had seen news of ancient alien legends, creatures said to destroy entire fleets without effort. He never thought he would meet one. "Captain, we can't hold them off for long." Mara shouted. JORA and took a deep breath. "Then we adapt. Activate the experimental drives. We need to retreat, regroup, and warn the Council. Humanity cannot fight this alone." The crew obeyed, but the creature seemed to anticipate their moves. It shifted position, cutting off their escape route, moving faster than any known propulsion system. Panic began to creep into the crew's movements. Suddenly, a voice echoed in Joran's mind, not through communication devices, but directly in his thoughts. It was ancient, commanding, and full of anger. "You dare enter my territory. You will pay for your arrogance." Joran staggered, realizing this was no ordinary being. It was intelligent, aware, and far beyond any species humanity had studied. The war they had unknowingly started was not just about survival, it was a challenge against the deadliest creatures in existence. He straightened. "All right," he muttered. "If this is war, we will fight smarter." For the first time, the crew saw determination in Joran's eyes, a human resolve that no alien force could underestimate. Even as the Resolute shook under repeated attacks, the crew prepared for the impossible. They knew the coming battle would test everything about them, their courage, intelligence, and unity. Humanity was about to face an enemy it had no idea how to defeat, but they would not back down. The energy pulses from the creature grew more frequent, more violent, lighting the stars like deadly fireworks. And somewhere deep in the void, countless others of its kind began to stir, awakened by the presence of humans. The galaxy, which had once seemed quiet and endless, was now alive with the threat of unimaginable danger. As the Resolute limped away, trailing smoke and sparks, Joran realized the terrible truth. Humanity had just started a war it could not avoid, and the deadliest beings in the galaxy were only beginning to notice them. The Resolute drifted through the dark expanse, its hull scarred from the creature's attacks. Smoke rose from damaged engines, warning lights blinked constantly, and the crew worked tirelessly to keep the ship operational. Captain Joran Vale never left the bridge, his eyes scanning the stars, his mind calculating every possible move. "We can't outrun them forever," Lieutenant Mara said, her voice tense. "They move faster than anything we've seen, and there's more of them. Sensors are picking up multiple energy signatures now." Joran's jaw tightened. "How many?" "At least 6 more, approaching," Mara replied. "They're not ships, they're living creatures, and they're huge." The crew exchanged worried glances. They had always known that space held dangers, but nothing like this. Humanity had faced alien species before, but this was on a completely different level. These were not just predators, they were intelligent hunters, and they were organized. The first creature appeared in the distance, its massive form cutting through the void like a shadow. Its scales glinted in the starlight, and jagged spikes ran along its body like a living fortress. The sheer size of it made the Resolute seem tiny, almost insignificant. "Brace for impact," Joran shouted. The ship trembled as the creature unleashed a beam of pure energy. The shields absorbed most of it, but the force threw crew members to the deck. Sparks flew from consoles, and alarms blared, but the humans held their positions. Mara fired the ship's weapons again, aiming at the creature's glowing core. The beams bounced harmlessly off its armor. Every shot that missed reminded them of one terrifying fact: they were outmatched. Joran clenched his fists. "We can't fight them head-on. Prepare to deploy the drones. Use every tactical advantage we have." Mechanical drones shot out from the Resolute, small but fast, designed to gather intelligence and distract enemies. They zipped around the massive creature, drawing its attention for brief moments. But the creatures adapted quickly. One drone was crushed effortlessly by a sudden swipe of a tail. Another evaporated under a focused energy blast. "They learn fast," Mara muttered. Joran's voice was steady but firm. "Good. Then we learn faster. Focus on survival first, then find a way to turn the fight in our favor." As the Resolute tried to retreat, a new creature appeared, larger than the first, with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce the darkness of space. It moved with purpose, circling the human ship as if analyzing it. Joran realized that these beings were not acting randomly, they were hunting, communicating, and coordinating attacks. Humanity was not facing just one monster, but an army of predators that had survived countless battles across the galaxy. Suddenly, the creature closest to them accelerated. In a flash, it was upon the Resolute, ramming its massive body against the ship's hull. The impact rocked the vessel, sending crew members tumbling. "Damage report." Joran barked. "Shields are at 30%. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5. Mara cried. Joran took a deep breath, forcing calm over panic. "Divert all power to engines. We'll take evasive maneuvers and hope they don't follow us into the nebula field ahead." The ship shuddered as it attempted to flee, but the creatures were relentless. They adjusted their speed, following the Resolute with terrifying precision. The crew began to see the real scale of the threat. They were not just fighting for victory, they were fighting for survival. Every decision could mean life or death. Hours passed in a tense silence, broken only by alarms and the creaking of the ship. Joran studied the sensors, trying to understand the creature's patterns. He noticed something disturbing. The energy signatures were not just random. Each creature seemed to be communicating through bursts of energy, creating a network that the humans could barely comprehend. "We can't outrun them forever," Mara said quietly. "They're learning our tactics." Joran nodded. "Then we make them learn something new. Prepare the experimental weapons. If we survive the next encounter, we hit them with everything we've got." As the Resolute entered the nebula, the stars disappeared behind thick clouds of gas and dust. The creatures slowed, hesitant to follow fully into the maze of the nebula. For a brief moment, humanity had a chance to regroup, but Joran knew this was only temporary. The creatures were smart, patient, and deadly. They would not give up. Looking at his crew, Joran spoke with quiet determination. "We started this war. We know it's impossible, but we are human. We adapt, we fight, and we survive. They may be the deadliest beings in the galaxy, but they have never faced us before." Somewhere in the distance, hidden by the swirling clouds of the nebula, the massive predators waited. The first encounter had ended, but the war was far from over. Humanity had survived, but the price was only beginning to reveal itself. The galaxy had just become a battlefield, and the humans aboard the Resolute were the first to face its unimaginable horrors. The Resolute moved cautiously through the dense nebula, its engines straining against the thick clouds of gas and dust. Outside, the stars were hidden behind swirling mists, creating an eerie, green glow that bathed the ship. Captain Joran Vale's eyes scanned the sensors constantly. Every shadow, every blip on the screen could mean the difference between life and death. "We're slowing down too much," Mara warned. "If they figure out the nebula's maze, they'll corner us." Joran's jaw tightened. "We have no choice. Outside the nebula, they would catch us in seconds. Here, we might confuse them long enough to strike back." The crew worked silently, each member focused on their task. Fear was present, but it was tempered by determination. They were human, small in the galaxy, but clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. Joran knew that if anyone could survive against these creatures, it would be them. Suddenly, the sensors lit up with dozens of fast-moving blips. Joran's heart sank. "They followed us," he said grimly. "Not just one, they found a way into the nebula." The creatures moved with terrifying precision, weaving between gas clouds as if they knew every possible path. One of them rammed into the Resolute, shaking the ship violently. Sparks flew from the damaged panels and smoke filled the bridge, hull integrity dropping. Shouted Ensign Kira, "We can't take much more." Joran gritted his teeth. "Prepare the experimental energy pulse. We hit them all at once, or we won't get another chance." The crew activated the weapon, a newly developed system capable of releasing a massive burst of energy to disrupt enemy movement. It was risky, too strong, and it could damage the Resolute itself. But they had no choice. The pulse erupted into the nebula, a wave of blinding light and raw energy. The creatures screamed, a sound that was more felt than heard, vibrating through the hull. Some of them veered off, confused, while others adapted instantly, regrouping and continuing their relentless pursuit. "We slowed them," Mara shouted. "They're not moving as fast." "Good," Joran said. "Now we strike back." He gave the order, and the Resolute fired all remaining weapons, targeting the creature's glowing cores. Lasers, missiles, and experimental rounds cut through the nebula, striking several of the predators. One of them exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending pieces of its massive body spinning through space. The crew cheered, but their victory was short-lived. Another massive predator appeared, larger and more terrifying than the others. Its scales shimmered with a deadly blue glow, and its energy spikes were longer, sharper, and more dangerous. It seemed almost intelligent, aware of what the humans had done. Joran felt a chill. "This one is different," he muttered. "It's leading them." The creatures reorganized, forming a circle around the Resolute. They were no longer chasing, they were hunting. Joran realized that every move they made was being anticipated. Every attack had a consequence, every escape route could be blocked. "We can't hold them off forever," Mara said, fear creeping into her voice. "We need a plan." Joran's eyes narrowed. "Then we make one. Prepare the cloaking system and all evasive measures. We're going to lead them deeper into the nebula, where their size will work against them." The crew acted quickly, reconfiguring the ship's systems. The Resolute became harder to detect, slipping between gas clouds and avoiding the Predator's energy pulses. But the creatures were relentless. They pushed through the nebula, crashing against gas pockets and iron storms without hesitation. It was clear they were willing to risk injury to achieve their goal. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional alarm. Joran could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Every life on the ship depended on his decisions, and one mistake could mean the end finally. The humans found an advantage. A narrow chasm of ionized gas stretched before them, too tight for the massive creatures to pass. Joran's eyes lit up with hope. "This is it," he whispered. "We lead them here and trap them." The Resolute accelerated, weaving skillfully through the ionized chasm. The creatures followed, but their size made it difficult. One of the predators slammed into the edge, sending debris flying. Another became stuck temporarily, its energy spikes sparking as it struggled to break free. The crew held their breath. For a moment, it seemed like they might survive this encounter. But Joran knew better than to celebrate too soon. These were the deadliest beings in the galaxy, and this war had only just begun. As the Resolute prepared to strike back, Joran's mind raced. They needed more than weapons and strategy. They needed courage, ingenuity, and a spark of humanity that no predator could understand. The war was far from over, but for the first time, humans had proven they could fight back, and somewhere deep in the nebula, the creatures hissed and roared, aware that the humans were more dangerous than they had expected. The galaxy had shifted. The hunters had found prey, but the prey had teeth, and it was ready to bite. The Resolute floated in the quiet of the nebula, its hull battered, but holding. For the first time since the encounter began, the crew had a moment to breathe. Yet the calm was tense, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Captain Joran Vale knew it would not last long. The deadliest creatures in the galaxy were relentless, and they were learning. "We need more than just defense," Joran said, pacing on the bridge. "They're smart, coordinated, and dangerous. We have to hit them where it hurts." Mara nodded, tapping on the tactical display. "We've been analyzing the energy pulses. They respond to our attacks, but there's a pattern. If we disrupt their core network, we can slow them down, maybe even force them to retreat." Joran's eyes lit up. "Then that's what we do. Prepare the synchronized strike. Every weapon, every drone, every experimental system. We go all in." The crew sprang into action, their fear replaced by determination. For the first time, they were not just reacting, they were planning, anticipating, and taking control. The Resolute's weapons hummed with energy as the crew calibrated every system for maximum effect. Outside, the creatures loomed, their massive forms barely visible through the swirling gas of the nebula. They had followed the humans into the maze, confident that their size and power would crush the Resolute. But the humans had something the Predators did not. Strategy. JO or AN gave the order. Now, a wave of energy erupted from the ship, drones darting out to confuse and distract the Predators. Simultaneously, the weapons fired, striking the glowing cores of the creatures with precise accuracy. The nebula lit up with flashes of light and explosions as the creatures screamed in rage. Some were caught off guard. One massive predator collided with the ionized gas walls, sparks flying from its armored scales. Another was hit directly, shattering part of its energy spikes and forcing it to retreat. The humans had proven they could strike back, and the predators were not invincible. But the creatures adapted quickly. The leader, larger and more intelligent than the rest, unleashed a coordinated attack. Energy beams lashed out from multiple angles, forcing the Resolute to dodge and weave through the nebula. Panels sparked, and hull breaches threatened to overwhelm the ship. "Shields are failing," Mara shouted. "We can't hold them off for much longer." Joran's mind raced. He refused to panic. "Divert power to the main cannon. Target the leader. Hit it with everything we've got." The main cannon charged, glowing with an intense blue light. The crew watched as it fired a concentrated beam directly at the leader. The impact shook the nebula, sending shockwaves through the gas clouds. The leader screeched in pain, stumbling backward. For a moment, it seemed unstoppable. The other creatures faltered, confused by the sudden strike against their leader. The humans seized the opportunity, targeting the secondary predators with coordinated volleys. One by one, they were forced to retreat, battered and disoriented. The Resolute was still damaged, but it had struck a decisive blow. Joran exhaled slowly, relief mixed with cautious anticipation. "This is our chance. We push forward and finish what we started." The crew repaired what they could, redirecting power to weapons and shields. Every member of the team worked tirelessly, knowing that the battle was far from over. But for the first time, humanity had proven something important. They were not just prey. They were fighters. As the Resolute moved deeper into the nebula, the leader of the Predators seemed to hesitate. It had never encountered humans who fought back with such ingenuity. Their strikes were not random. They were intelligent, coordinated, and dangerous. The Predators had expected weakness, but instead, they faced a species that could learn, adapt, and strike back in ways they could not anticipate. Joran looked at his crew. Their faces were streaked with sweat and dirt, but their eyes shone with determination. "Remember this moment," he said quietly. "They are strong, terrifying, but we are human, and we never give up." For now, the nebula offered a temporary refuge. The Predators retreated slightly, nursing their wounds and regrouping. But the humans knew this was only a brief pause. The deadliest creatures in the galaxy were not defeated. They were angry, and they would return. Joran's mind raced with possibilities. They had proven they could fight back, but the cost had been high. Every battle would be harder than the last. Yet he felt a spark of hope, a dangerous, fragile thing that humans had always carried into war. No matter how strong the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, they would adapt. They would survive. Outside the Resolute, the nebula cloud swirled, hiding the Predators from view. The battle was far from over, but humanity had sent a message. They were not weak. They were clever, resourceful, and terrifying in their own way. The war had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Resolute drifted cautiously through the nebula, its hull battered but still holding. The crew worked tirelessly, repairing damage and recalibrating weapons. Knowing the predators would not wait long, Captain Joran Vale stood on the bridge, scanning the dark expanse of gas clouds for any sign of the enemy. "They're regrouping," Mara said, her voice tight with tension. "Sensors indicate at least twice as many signatures as before. They're preparing to strike back." Joran's expression hardened. "Then we strike first. Humanity survives because we take the fight to the enemy, not wait for them to come to us." The crew nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They had survived the first encounters, learned from the predators' attacks, and adapted quickly. Now it was time to show the deadliest beings in the galaxy that humans were not easy prey. The Resolute moved deeper into the nebula, using its knowledge of the dense clouds to set traps. The ship released decoy drones, shimmering with energy to confuse the predators. The plan was simple: lure them into narrow passages where their massive size would work against them. As expected, the creatures followed, their glowing cores lighting up the nebula. They moved with precision, but they were not prepared for the humans' cunning. One of the predators collided with a gas cloud wall, its massive body scraping against the dense plasma, sending sparks and fragments flying. Another attempted to turn, only to be hit by concentrated energy beams from the Resolute. "Yes," Joran shouted, a rare smile breaking through his stern demeanor. "Keep it up. Hit them all at once." The crew worked in perfect synchronization, firing lasers, missiles, and experimental pulses simultaneously. The nebula lit up with explosions, the predators screaming in fury and pain. Several were forced to retreat, their massive bodies damaged and disoriented. But victory came at a cost. The Resolute's hull was further damaged, and one of the engines failed, leaving the ship slower and more vulnerable. Sparks flew from the bridge consoles, and the crew struggled to maintain control. "Captain, another group is closing in," Mara shouted. "They've adapted, they're coordinating now." Joran's eyes narrowed. "Then we adapt faster. Activate the gravity pulse projectors. We'll use the nebula itself as a weapon." The Resolute released a series of gravity pulses, distorting space around the nebula clouds. The pulses created turbulence that pushed the predators off course, causing collisions and forcing them to lose formation. The humans had turned the environment into a weapon, using their cleverness to gain the upper hand. Despite the success, Joran knew it was only temporary. The predators were relentless and intelligent. They would not give up easily. He could feel the presence of their leader, a massive creature that seemed to anticipate every human move. It was patient, calculating, and furious. "They're not just hunting, they're learning," Mara said quietly. "Every attack we make, they understand it, adapt, and come back stronger." Joran nodded. "Then we make them learn something new. Humanity fights differently. We use brains, courage, and unpredictability. That's our advantage." The ship moved with precision, weaving through the nebula while firing on the predators. Several more were forced to retreat, and the humans finally saw a moment of hope. The creatures were powerful, but the humans were clever, resourceful, and united. They had learned that survival meant more than strength, it meant strategy. Hours passed, and the battle raged on. The crew worked tirelessly, their fear replaced by determination. Each strike, each movement, was a test of human ingenuity against an enemy designed for destruction. Then, suddenly, the leader of the predators struck. It emerged from the shadows, its massive form glowing with deadly energy. The Resolute shuddered under the impact as it rammed the ship, tearing through reinforced hull sections. Alarms blared, and sparks filled the bridge as crew members were thrown to the ground. "Divert all remaining power to weapons," Joran shouted. "We hit the leader now, or it will destroy us." The humans fired everything they had: lasers, missiles, energy pulses. The leader screeched in rage, its massive body twisting to avoid attacks. The fight was intense, and the Resolute shook violently under repeated strikes. Yet, through the chaos, Joran saw a glimmer of hope. The leader hesitated, its intelligence calculating the humans' unpredictability. For the first time, it seemed unsure. Humanity had made an impression, and even the deadliest predator could sense it. Joran clenched his fists. "We can win this. We have to." As the ship maneuvered through the nebula, the humans realized the battle was far from over, but they had made a statement. They were not weak. They were dangerous. They were human. And the galaxy had just begun to understand that underestimating humanity could be deadly. The Resolute emerged from the nebula battered, but alive. The predators had retreated, at least for now, nursing their wounds and regrouping. But Captain Joran Vale knew one thing for certain: the war had only just begun. Humanity had struck back, and the deadliest beings in the galaxy had finally realized they faced an enemy unlike any other. The Resolute drifted through open space, its hull scarred and battered from battle. The crew was exhausted, yet a tense determination filled the air. Captain Joran Vale studied the stars, his mind racing. The deadliest beings in the galaxy were regrouping. Their intelligence, coordination, and sheer power had forced humanity to adapt at every turn. But Joran knew the final confrontation was inevitable. "We can't keep running," Mara said, her voice quiet but firm. "They'll catch up, and next time, we might not survive." Joran nodded, his eyes steely. "We fight them here. We turn the odds in our favor, or humanity will pay the price." The crew worked quickly, repairing what they could, rerouting power to weapons, shields, and engines. Every system was optimized for one purpose: survival. But survival alone was not enough. They needed victory, or at least, they needed to make the creatures respect humanity. As they approached the dense asteroid belt, Joran outlined his plan. "We use the terrain to our advantage. Their size is their weakness. Between the asteroids, they can't move freely. We hit them hard and force them to retreat or die trying." The crew moved with precision, releasing decoy drones to confuse the predators. The asteroids provided cover, hiding the Resolute from energy sensors. From this vantage, they could strike strategically, using their intelligence and agility to outmaneuver the massive creatures. The first predator appeared, massive and gleaming with energy spikes. It roared, a sound that shook the hull of the ship, and lunged toward them. The humans waited, holding their fire, until the creature was in the perfect position now. Joran shouted. The Resolute fired every weapon simultaneously, beams of energy and experimental pulses striking the predator's core. The creature shrieked, tumbling into a cluster of asteroids. Rocks shattered against its body, causing sparks and fractures along its scales. For a brief moment, the humans cheered, but the danger was far from over. From the darkness, another predator emerged, larger and more terrifying than the first. Its glowing eyes fixed on the Resolute, analyzing every movement. This was the leader, the one that had forced humanity to adapt from the very beginning. Its presence alone set waves of fear through the crew, yet they stood firm, steady. Joran said calmly, "We've made them hesitate before. We can do it again." The leader attacked, its massive body barreling toward the ship. The Resolute dodged and weaved through the asteroid belt, the engine straining, sparks flying from the hull. Mara fired the experimental energy pulse, hitting the creature's core. It staggered, but did not fall. "They're stronger than we imagined," Mara said, panting. "Then we get smarter," Joran replied. "Predict their moves, exploit their size, and hit hard." The humans coordinated perfectly, using decoys, energy blasts, and careful maneuvers. One by one, the smaller predators fell, damaged and retreating into the darkness. The leader, however, remained. It was a creature of pure intelligence and power, relentless and patient. Joran made a bold decision. "We draw it into the heart of the asteroid field. The tight spaces will limit its movement. It's now or never." The Resolute darted between massive rocks, leading the leader deeper into the field. The creature followed, its size causing it to crash repeatedly, energy spikes sparking against asteroids. Finally, the humans had an opening, full power to the main cannon. Joran ordered, "Target the core." The weapon charged, a brilliant beam of energy streaking toward the creature. The impact hit directly, sending shockwaves through space. The leader shrieked and thrashed, crashing into the asteroids repeatedly. Finally, with one last massive roar, it fell silent. The remaining predators, leaderless and disoriented, retreated into the void. The Resolute floated in the silence of space, battered but alive. The crew looked around, disbelief and relief mixing in their expressions. They had survived. They had won this battle. Joran breathed deeply, his eyes scanning the stars. "This war is far from over," he said quietly. "But today, humanity proved something. We are clever, resourceful, and dangerous. The galaxy will not forget this." The crew cheered softly, their exhaustion mingled with pride. They had faced the deadliest beings the galaxy had ever known, and they had struck back. For the first time, humans were not prey. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the Resolute limped toward safe space, Joran allowed himself a moment to reflect. Humanity had survived impossible odds, outsmarted a superior predator. and shown courage in the face of unimaginable danger. They had won a decisive battle, but the war continued somewhere beyond the stars. Hidden in the darkness of the galaxy, the deadliest creatures stirred. They would return. They would adapt. But now, they knew that humanity was not to be underestimated. The spark of defiance had been lit, and nothing in the galaxy could extinguish it. The war had reached its peak. The humans of the Resolute had survived, learned, and fought back with everything they had. The galaxy had changed. The stage was set for the final confrontation, the ultimate test of human courage and ingenuity. The Resolute drifted in the void, battered and scarred, yet alive. The crew moved quietly, their bodies exhausted, but their spirits unbroken. Captain Joran Vale stood on the bridge, staring into the darkness of space. They had survived countless attacks, adapted faster than the deadliest predators in the galaxy could anticipate, and now faced the ultimate challenge, the final strike. Sensors picked up movement, a massive formation of predators emerging from hyperspace, larger and more terrifying than any they had encountered. The creatures' glowing cores pulsed with energy, and their coordinated presence made the stars themselves seem dim. This was the culmination of the war, the ultimate test of humanity's resolve. Mara's voice trembled slightly as she reported the readings. Captain, they're more numerous than ever. We won't survive a direct attack. Joran clenched his jaw, staring at the approaching enemy. That we don't fight like humans usually fight. We fight smarter, faster. Together, the crew immediately sprang into action. Drones were deployed, energy pulses readied, and weapons recalibrated. Every human knew their role. This was more than survival, it was a statement. Humanity would not be conquered. The predators attacked first, surging forward with unimaginable speed. Beams of energy cut through the darkness, striking the Resolute with precision. The ship shook violently as alarms blared and sparks flew across the bridge. Crew members were thrown off balance, yet each returned to their post, determined to hold the line. Joran studied the attack patterns, noticing something crucial. The predators were coordinated, yes, but they followed predictable logic. They adapted, but only to what they could sense. Humans, on the other hand, could think beyond instinct. That was the advantage he intended to exploit. Prepare the gravity pulse array, Joran ordered. We trap them in the asteroid field ahead, lead them into it, and they'll crash into each other. The Resolute maneuvered skillfully, weaving through space debris while drawing the predators closer. The creatures followed, their sheer size forcing them into tight spaces. One collided with an asteroid, sending shards of rock flying. Another tried to turn, only to smash against a cluster of floating debris. The humans' plan was working. Fire everything, Joran commanded. Hit their cores while they're disoriented. Energy beams, missiles, and experimental pulses rained down on the predators. Explosions lit up the void as several of the creatures fell, their massive forms shredded by combined human ingenuity and raw courage. The crew cheered, but they did not let their guard down. The leader, the massive, intelligent predator that had haunted them from the beginning, remained. It roared, its energy spikes flaring as it charged the Resolute. The ship rocked violently, systems failing one by one. But Joran refused to back down. Focus on the main cannon. Target the leader's core directly. The cannon charged with blinding energy, and Joran timed the shot perfectly. As the leader struck the hull, the beam fired, hitting its glowing core with deadly precision. The predator screeched in agony, thrashing wildly before colliding with the asteroid field and exploding in a cascade of light. The remaining predators, leaderless and disoriented, scattered into the darkness, defeated and broken. Silence fell across the bridge, broken only by the hum of damaged systems. For the first time in days, the crew allowed themselves to breathe. Joran looked around at his crew, exhausted but alive. We did it, he said quietly. We survived. We fought back. Humanity has won today. The crew erupted into cheers, tears streaming down faces worn with fear and fatigue. They had faced the deadliest creatures in the galaxy, endured unimaginable attacks, and survived against all odds. And more than survival, they had struck a blow that the galaxy would remember. Yet Joran knew the war was not over everywhere. These creatures existed across countless star systems, and there would be more battles. But humanity had proven something essential. Even against the deadliest predators, cleverness, courage, and unity could overcome raw power. Mara approached him, a weary smile on her face. Captain, we did the impossible. Joran nodded, his eyes returning to the stars. Not impossible, he said softly. Human, and that's something no one in this galaxy can underestimate. The Resolute limped away from the battlefield, hull smoking but intact. The nebula and asteroid fields behind them glimmered in the light of destroyed predators, a silent testament to the human spirit. Humanity had faced monsters, survived, and adapted. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. Humans were not weak, and they would never bow to fear. As the crew began repairs, Captain Jorn stood alone on the bridge, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, new threats would emerge, more powerful and cunning. But humanity had faced the deadliest creatures in the galaxy and survived. They had learned, adapted, and fought with courage. And they would do it again, if necessary. The war had tested them, pushed them to the brink, and forced them to rise above fear. Humanity had triumphed, not because of power alone, but because of ingenuity, determination, and unbreakable spirit. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Jorn knew one truth: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived, and no creature, no matter how deadly, would ever forget it. The war was over for now, but the legend of the humans, who challenged the deadliest beings in the galaxy, would echo through the cosmos forever.